Hello, Maeve and Zeta. This is your father's friend, Chris Ralphs, and I'm here today to give you a tutorial on the stomach compartment theory. And I applaud your father for seeking out such important life lessons for you both. The stomach compartment theory is a theory that explains the way your stomach works. The kind of traditional stomach design is just a big empty sack where whatever you eat goes into the sack and it gets digested. And anyone who's paying attention to the way that they eat and the things that they enjoy will realize that that's obviously not really the way the stomach works, right? There are certain foods that you can eat more of and other foods that you can eat less of. And so the stomach compartment theory is a way of explaining how your stomach actually works in real life. So a good way of thinking about this is to use some examples. So I don't know, the two of you, what food you like or dislike, but if you think about something like green beans, if that's a food that you like, or peas or broccoli, whatever vegetable it is, vegetable compartments tend to not be super large for most people. And so if you were to eat as much green beans or peas as you possibly could until you really felt quite ill and couldn't eat anymore, I would guess that you would still have room for something like pizza or grilled cheese. And the reason is that the pizza compartment tends to be much bigger and more and less compressible. So even if you ate all those green beans, your pizza compartment still has quite a bit of room in it. And if you did it the other way and you ate as much pizza as you could, when you were done with the pizza, you probably wouldn't have a lot of room in that green bean compartment because green bean compartments tend to be fairly compressible. However, even if you had eaten your fill of both green beans and pizza, likely you'd still be able to eat some ice cream because the dessert compartment is very hard to compress. There's almost always still room for dessert at the end of any meal. And this is something that you guys can test at home, and there's a lot of correlates to this theory. Like, for instance, there's some people that just don't have compartments for certain foods. For instance, I don't have a pickles compartment. So for me to eat pickles, I have to put them into a compartment that that's not designed for pickles, and it's very uncomfortable. So if there are any foods that you find particularly unpleasant, you should suggest to your father that you probably just don't have a compartment for that. Also, there are certain foods such as lutefisk or haggis, and your parents can tell you what those things are, but if you're not exposed to those foods at a young age, you never develop a compartment for it. So most adults that encounter those foods for the first time don't find them to be very good because there's an age at which you need to be exposed to it for that compartment to develop normally. And this makes sense if we think about evolution, right? Thousands of years ago, before there were grocery stores, when we would be out foraging for our food and eating berries and things we would find in the forests, it would make sense that adults would be a little more adventurous and would try some other foods to make sure that they were safe, and they would have the experience to know which things were likely to be poisonous, whereas children would have a more limited number of compartments, so they wouldn't tend to eat things that might be poisonous for them. They would only eat the safe types of foods. So that also, if your parents are talking to you about why you won't try more other kinds of foods, suggest to them that it might be evolution that your compartments were designed this way. There are also certain things. You live in Colorado, for instance, and so you may have heard on the news people talking about marijuana, and this is a substance that has a lot of effects on your body, many of them bad. It can also affect your compartments. So people that eat marijuana that smoke marijuana often make very bad decisions about what to eat because of the effects of marijuana on their compartments. And one way that we can think about compartments too is when we're sitting down for a meal, knowing that things like the green bean compartment is easily compressed. In order to make sure that we get our green beans, it's important to eat those first, so that with other things like pizza don't overexpand and compress that green bean compartment, knowing that at the end of the meal we'll still have room in our dessert compartment, so we can always save the dessert for last. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have other questions, ask your father. You can certainly give me a call and I'd be glad to talk with you further about it. or any of the other wonderful theories that we have to explain things in our life.